Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the Meet My OCs series where I draw a character sheet and talk about one of my OCs. I'm starting out with Dorian, who is my main OC, kind of. He's definitely the one that I draw the most, but there's not really a main character in the story, in the universe. They all just live kind of side by side and they're equally important, which is why it's going to be a bit difficult to explain his personality and his story and life. I'm definitely going to have to mention the other characters, but well. In terms of their world and the universe that they live in, think exactly our world. All the technology, the video games, the memes that we have, they also have them, but obviously it's a bit more fantastical. The names are more fantastical, I guess, of the places. They're obviously inspired by fantasy races. Dorian is clearly an elf. And in their world, there used to be magic, but there was an uprising and a big chaos, and then the magic basically disappeared. There was good and bad magic, it wasn't all bad, but it disappeared completely, and no one has the abilities. They just live these completely mundane lives now, but that's just how it goes sometimes. And in addition to the magic being gone, the government, kind of the last act that they enforced, was that all of the people that kind of dabbled in darker magic, they were transformed into more like animals. So the little bunny doodle, you can barely tell right now, but it's a bunny with horns, and her name is Gaia. She's kind of a character. She's a side character. She's Rhea's mum, but she was a demon. She wasn't that evil, she wasn't the biggest supervillain, but she didn't use her magic for good. She was bad, and so she got turned into a bunny, and that's why Rhea has one bunny ear. But this is not a video about Rhea. This is about Dorian. That was just a bit of a summary about the world, so you understand what's going on. Now, about Dorian. He is 23. He is an Aquarius. He was born on the 31st of January, and he is a very anxious, sad elf boy. That's the best way I can describe him. He's scared of everything. He doesn't like people. They scare him, they make him panic, but he also doesn't like being completely alone because he doesn't think he can rely on himself. And so anything, any situation, any place, you name it, he's probably nervous and anxious and scared about it. But that's just the way he is, and he's a ball of nerves, but I love him. I don't really know where to even start. Basically, the reason why he moves in with the rest of the group is because he meets Win, and I'll talk about that more in, I think, Win's video, because it's definitely more specific to his character. But they meet, and they kind of mesh very well instantly, and they get along. And so Win is like, oh, your living situation is kind of rough, buddy. Why don't you come move in with me and my friends? And he literally moves in before he even knows the rest of the group, and at first they're like, who is this random elf that's just moving in with us, whom we've never met in our entire lives? But very quickly, that beginning bit of ice kind of melts away, and they get along so well. They're literally like a family. They're basically the family that Dorian never had, because he didn't... Growing up, he did have a family, but he chose to leave them. And then he was in foster care for a while, 2 years. And then he kind of left that and tried getting by himself. But he's not the kind of person that's, he can't really rely on himself. He doesn't have a job. He briefly in the story works at a movie theater, and that's where Evan comes into the story, but he quits that job after a while, so he doesn't really have a job or an income. Most of the time he kind of ends up staying home. He does kind of clean up after the rest of the group, and he takes care of Gaia the most just because he is always home, and the group doesn't like Gaia. They really don't. Not even Rhea. She does not like her own mum. She's kind of a bit hostile. when it comes to her, but they also couldn't let this bunny just out to fend for itself. And they also don't know just how sentient Gaia is. They don't know how much of, the person is in her and how much is just a helpless little bunny. So they just took her in and they take care of her, feed her and stuff. And most of the time it's Dorian that gets stuck with her, because it's not like this is a pet that they all love so much. It's a pet, they take care of it. But also it used to be a demon, so they're kind of careful about it. So after Dorian joins the group and moves in with them, like I said, they become his family and they get along really well. And then at that point, no one wants him to leave, no one wants to leave. And they move a couple of times, like the four of them together, they move into different apartments and stuff. So they don't live in the original apartment anymore because it was too small at some point for the four of them. And Win is kind of the bread maker, quote unquote, because he's a somewhat famous streamer, but I'll get to that in his video. Just know that Win and Dorian, they are very close, they get along very well. They're very close friends, wink wink, if you know what I mean. They're not canonically dating, but I do constantly draw them like that because I ship them, but they're not canonically dating. So that's that. I love torturing my characters. Speaking of torture, Dorian is definitely a bit of a tortured soul. He's a bit of a mess, He always wears bandages for reasons, or if he doesn't, then he still likes to wear these arm warmers. I'm not gonna get too into that, but like I'm sure you can imagine what that's about. The random fried egg that I doodled, that's because his favorite food of all time is eggs of any kind, not just fried. He loves all types of eggs. I don't know, he eats them all the time. He's obsessed with them. The I Love Wine t-shirt is an inside joke in the group. He drinks a lot of red wine, and so the group at some point they gifted him this t-shirt to be like, hey, you like wine, haha. That was one Christmas. And funny story, I realized this whilst drawing this. Oh my gosh, so I'm currently scribbling how I just started watching Beastars. I'm not gonna talk about Beastars, but I'm already done at this point with everything. I ordered the 3 first volumes of the manga, and I did at this point pause everything I was doing and this speed paint that I was working on, and I designed myself as a Beastars character. So there's that. Back to Dorian and the shirt. I realized as I was drawing it how I love wine, if you cover up the E, it would literally say I love win, and I think that is very fitting, very ironic. Uh, but yeah, there's also a photo camera because he likes taking pictures of his friends. He is camera shy himself, but he does like taking pictures of others and kind of keeping memories and stuff. And as you can see, he has some very cool piercings on his ears. He has these long dangly crosses, and he has, normal studs, and then also a couple of hoops. But he would absolutely never get a face piercing. He doesn't want to tarnish his face. He likes piercings on others, but he just wouldn't put them on himself. He's like, you wouldn't put a bumper sticker on a Ferrari. He's kind of a little bit vain. He is shy and insecure and reserved, but around his friends he's also sometimes very much full of himself. He likes reading poetry and stuff, and he is quite pretentious about it. His friends will all be playing a video game and he'll be like, ooh, I'm currently reading this and that, and you wouldn't understand, I'm so deep. But his friends, they think it's funny. It doesn't bother them per se. There's also a box of hair dye because he dyes his hair. It's not natural. Don't tell him that I told you that, because he will freak out. He does not want anyone to know. At one point in the story, he starts dating someone, and that person does not know that he has dyed hair for literally the entire time they are together. He just does not know because Dorian doesn't tell anyone. But of course, his like closest friends that live with him, they do know. He also has a couple of issues with his ears. They're very sensitive and they get all ringy sometimes, so he really does not like loud noises or being around loud things. But there are a couple of sounds that he really likes that like calm him a lot. Which you can read. I wrote like some of those details in the character sheet. I'll leave a direct link to the finished character sheet in the description box, so you can just look at that and read through it because it is very small on the screen, or the writing that I do later on. Now, going a bit out of character, how I created Dorian was kind of random. Basically, I've been drawing him for a lot longer than he was a character. He was actually kind of a reoccurring character in a lot of my conceptual stuff. When I don't draw my OCs for the comfort of my soul, I usually do more conceptual pieces and stuff. And he is in a bunch of them. So I decided, wow, I love this character so much, but I don't want to put him in like every single piece that I draw because that is repetitive. Like, that's okay if you're doing a series and it's all cohesive and stuff, but you can't have the same object in every single artwork that you do. So I was like, okay, what if I make an OC, like a full-fledged OC? And I have older OCs, but I've never really had drawing OCs. So this group of my OCs is kind of the first group of OCs specifically for drawing purposes, which is why they're so near and dear to my heart, and they're my main OCs, my main universe. Lovely, a siren. Yeah, and so I came up with his design, and he kind of he is the one that actually remained. Like, I haven't done any changes to him. To the other ones, I've done a couple of changes, especially when it comes to the colors. Like, I've tweaked hair colors and eye colors and stuff, but Dorian has pretty much always been exactly like this. Going back to the relationship between him and Win, it is definitely very wholesome. Like I said, Dorian, he kind of struggles a lot with his emotions and his brain, sometimes it do be like that. And Win is always there to calm him down. There's this saying that Win always says to Dorian, which is, the rules, there's no panic attacks whilst I'm cuddling you, which is very adorable. And yeah, they're very comfortable around each other. I don't even know what Dorian would do without Win, which is also the reason why I'm kind of weary of making them date canonically and putting that into the storyline, because I don't think that Dorian would be the best in relationships. I think he's just the kind of person that kind of any one of his romantic relationships will get a little bit toxic over time, and so I just don't want to put them through that. Also, am I done with the coloring? This video is long, my god. I think, yeah, at this point I'm starting to map out everything and write down all the details. Is there anything else? Oh yeah, his height. I just remembered. He's like 172 centimeters tall. Which basically he's not like the shortest one in the group. Win is the shortest one, but he's also not the tallest one. Raya's the tallest one, and he's very annoyed at that. Like I said, he can get kind of a bit, not egotistical, but like a bit vain, and sometimes he has a really big ego, but at the same time he's also very insecure and not really self-depreciate. He doesn't get, it doesn't bother him when other people criticize him, but because he expects it from them, but he doesn't really criticize himself. He's like, no, I'm great, but then when someone else tells him you're like a shitty person, he's like, yeah, I know. So that's the kind of vibe that he has. Oh, also, I forgot to mention, but I think it's pretty evident from just his face, but he's definitely a very sleep deprived little elf. Yeah, this video is almost over, so I I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you think my characters are interesting. I mean, I love watching these types of videos of people just talking about their OCs and drawing them and stuff. It's like one of my favorite types of videos, but there's not that many out there that I've found. I don't know if I'm not looking hard enough or if people just aren't making them, but yeah, anyone that talks about their OCs, I'm like, yes, I love you, please give me more. I also got this video out surprisingly quickly because the drawing portion of it just didn't take me that long at all. I thought it would take way longer, but it was actually very quick and I really enjoyed it. That being said, I don't think I'm going to be publishing these videos one after the other immediately because it's like I kind of want to have some time in between. I don't want to rush through it. Maybe I'll even write down some notes for the next video because I know that this was a bit jumbled and rambly, but oh well. As per usual, I will leave my Tumblr link down below. It's the only art social media that I have. Goodbye. I hope you enjoyed.